Ranking the Formula One teams after pre-season testing is not an exact science. Any attempt to do so must be taken into consideration with the knowledge that it is merely a snapshot of the current perceived order and not a confident forecast for the start of the season. Nevertheless, we have made some educated guesses to judge the differences between the teams heading into the Bahrain Grand Prix, taking into account raw speed, long run pace, trackside impressions, and feedback from inside the teams. So join us as we rank the 10 Formula One teams based on what we observed during pre-season testing. Number 10. Williams. The Williams 2023 Challenger appeared to be a good, reliable foundation for the upcoming season. But it's understandable that a car made by a team that recently lost its technical director and head of aero would have some downforce and speed deficiencies. Even though the car wasn't particularly quick, the fact that it functioned well is cause for optimism. Doubly so, considering the need to design a car that is a little less condition sensitive in terms of the wind effect, with the FW45 seeming to be a good starting point. As Alex Albon said, we're definitely in a better position in comparison to this time last year. Williams was also ranked second in terms of laps completed, so if it has made good use of its time, it should at least be one of the best prepared teams heading into the Bahrain Grand Prix weekend. Number 9. McLaren. McLaren is the least prepared team after testing, completing comfortably the fewest laps and possessing a car that seems to be among the slower in terms of speed and confidence on the track. Given McLaren's pessimistic attitude and the widespread consensus that it has fallen short of its aerodynamic efficiency goals, some of this was to be expected. According to team principal Andrea Stella, it has a significant upgrade planned for the fourth race of the season that includes a few parts with a significant amount of lap time sensitivity. But there were also other issues. The car currently in use appears to be the least evenly balanced of the 10, as Lando Norris admitted that it was a constant battle to keep the inner front wheel fairings intact. Therefore, all signs point to a season getting off to a slow start for the Woking outfit. Number 8. AlphaTauri. Prior to Yuki Tsunoda's quick lap on the final evening using the grip of the C4 Pirellis, AlphaTauri's pace looked troubling. But we must be careful not to let what might have been a deceptive low fuel run fool us. AlphaTauri is likely at the back of the midfield, but it's possible that it's not quite at the tail end of the pack. It seems to have made progress in addressing the lack of grip in the fast corners from last year, but its performance in the slow stuff is still very debatable. It looked difficult to maneuver into the tighter turns, even though there is still a slight understeer in the quick corners. It is obvious that something is off with AlphaTauri when technical director Jody Egginton talks about setup experiments, some of which yielded results that were not quite as expected. On the plus side, no team completed more laps, so it should be able to make the most of a car that, at least for now, appears to still be limited. Number 7. Haas. The best way to explain Haas's ranking on this list is that, despite being the sixth fastest team in testing, we believe Alpine will overtake them come Bahrain. Nevertheless, it exhibits all the characteristics of a very reliable midfielder. The car's reliability appeared to be strong, the test was successful, and it didn't appear to have any significant on-track weaknesses. However, it doesn't have the same energy as the previous year, which led to Kevin Magnussen's stunning season debut. Haas appears to have a really solid midfield car. As K-Mag said, there's no reason not to aim for points. Number 6. Alpine. Why would we place the team that tested the slowest in the middle of the field? Great question. It also has a simple answer. While Alpine is the team that performed the worst in testing, we believe that it is keeping quite a bit back. Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly never seemed to stray from a very rigid schedule that tended to emphasize longer runs on high fuel. Ando Alpine also seemed to exude confidence in knowing where it should be when everything is turned up. That tells us it has likely completed the performance work on the vehicle while operating in a lower engine mode, and thus not making any headlines in the leaderboards. This test was more impressive than it appeared on the surface, but little information can be gathered, hence us putting the team in the middle of the order. Number 5. Alfa Romeo. It would be a huge surprise if Alfa Romeo is able to repeat its testing performance come the Bahrain Grand Prix, but we are hesitant to drop it too far. Trackside indicators were encouraging, and the drivers appeared happy with the advancements made, following a significant technical effort over the winter. We also have the impression that it has the best chance of all the previously mentioned teams to open the season holding on to the front of the midfield, which is what propels it into 5th place on our list. Number 4. Mercedes. Mercedes' performance in Bahrain suggests that it lags behind Aston Martin in terms of readiness and long-term pace. Genuine optimism permeated the first day, gave way to confusion on day 2, and finally settled on day 3 with the car in a better place, as Andrew Shovlin put it. There still seem to be unanswered questions for the team, even though the porpoising and ride issues from last year are gone, and the car, at times at least, looked less of a handful on track. It's possible that the car has a sizable upside that, when realized, will put it back in front of Aston Martin and into Ferrari territory. But if the Bahrain Grand Prix had taken place on Saturday night, the team would have been among the top midfielders rather than going after the frontrunners. Number 3. Aston Martin. It is impossible to ignore the excitement surrounding what the Aston Martin might be able to accomplish this season. Even though we don't necessarily think Aston Martin will beat Mercedes after some time for development, it pulls ahead for the moment for a few clear advantages. Namely, the team appears to be better prepared and had a very impressive long run on the final day that caused quite a stir in the pit lane. The team believed there was more potential in the car, but the AMR23 already looks to be a more well-rounded package than the W14. There's a small question mark in that Fernando Alonso did not exactly nail what would have been his fastest soft-tyre lap, so we are judging its potential on the hypothetical jump it should make when everything comes together. However, with the effort coming from Lawrence Stroll to propel the team to become a title contender, this season may prove to be a turning point for Aston Martin's journey to become a frontrunner. Number 2. Ferrari. Despite some underlying optimism within the team, Ferrari does not look like it has Red Bull covered. But it also does not appear particularly vulnerable to Mercedes or even Aston Martin. Ferrari is closer over one lap, but going into the final day, Red Bull showed that it had a slight advantage in long-run pace. And Ferrari also acknowledges that some of its longer runs weren't as impressive. Nonetheless, by the time testing was over, Ferrari's confidence appeared to be unwavering, but we now know that it was holding something back. Therefore, Ferrari is thought to be Red Bull's biggest threat as the season gets underway. The only issue at hand is how close it can get when unleashing everything in Bahrain. Number 1. Red Bull. Red Bull delivered what is probably the most dominant performance possible during preseason testing. The RB19 appeared to be without a doubt the best car on the track. The team is optimistic, and it clearly has a pace advantage over both short and long runs. If Red Bull has any weaknesses, they're well hidden. Verstappen spoke of having positive days in Bahrain while driving the RB19 that, while an aggressive evolution of the dominant 2022 car, does perform a little differently. And to add more fuel to the fire, the Red Bull squad had plenty of chances to try the full range of setup experiments and develop its understanding thanks to a respectable mileage clocked. That brings us to the end of our list. Going into the season-opening Grand Prix in Bahrain, it appears as though Ferrari is the only team with a realistic chance of challenging Red Bull. The top of the midfield looks a bit murkier, with Mercedes and Aston Martin locked in a tough battle to determine who will be the best of the rest. With the exception of Alfa Romeo, who could emerge as a legitimate challenger to lead the midfield under the right conditions, the picture becomes more clear as we move further down the field, with Williams and McLaren the two teams that seem to be in the most trouble. But what do you think of the 10 teams' preseason test performance? Will we see any major shifts emerge when they race for real in Bahrain? Please let us know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking it and subscribing. Be sure to click the bell icon to be notified of future uploads. Thanks for watching.